the gun barrel pressed against Dr. Maya Carter's temple as her children screamed. "Please," she whispered, "my badge is in my purse." The white officer laughed. "Sure it is." Little did he know 3 hidden cameras were broadcasting everything to FBI headquarters. Before we dive into this shocking story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. If this kind of injustice makes your blood boil, hit that like button and subscribe to stay updated on stories that expose the truth about racial profiling in America. Now let's rewind to see how this terrifying confrontation began. Dr. Maya Carter checked her watch as she packed the last of the snacks into her beach bag, calling out to her children, "Zora, Marcus, we need to leave in 5 minutes if we want to get a good spot at Oakwood Heights." At 38, Maya was a picture of composed efficiency, balancing her demanding role as an FBI special agent with being a single mother to 12-year-old Zora and 7-year-old Marcus. Today was a rare full day off, and she had promised her children a trip to the community pool in their affluent Atlanta suburb where they had moved just 6 months ago. As she closed the refrigerator door, Maya caught her reflection in the chrome surface and paused, remembering yesterday's uncomfortable meeting at the bureau where she'd been officially promoted to lead a high-profile investigation into a sophisticated drug trafficking operation with suspected ties to local government officials. The promotion should have been a moment of pure triumph. She was now one of the few black female agents in a leadership position, but the thinly veiled resentment from several colleagues had tarnished the achievement. "Mom, are you okay?" Zora's voice pulled Maya from her thoughts. Her perceptive daughter had developed an uncanny ability to read her moods. "Just thinking about work, sweetie," Maya replied with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, deciding not to burden her children with the weight of the microaggressions she faced daily, both at work and in their predominantly white neighborhood. Just last week, a neighbor had called security when she was jogging after dark, and the day before that, a cashier had scrutinized her credit card with suspicious eyes while waving through white customers without a second glance. Maya's phone buzzed with an incoming text that made her stomach tighten. "Watch your back. Someone talking about your case. Dep not secure." The message was from her confidential informant, a warning that sent a cold shiver down her spine despite the summer heat. Without hesitation, Maya unlocked her gun safe and retrieved her service weapon, securing it discreetly in her purse, a habit from years of dangerous fieldwork that had saved her life more than once. As they backed out of the driveway, Maya noticed a dark sedan parked across the street that hadn't been there earlier. Her training kicked in immediately, as she took an intentionally circuitous route to the pool, making several unexpected turns until she was certain they weren't being followed. Upon arrival at Oakwood Heights Community Pool, Maya approached the entrance with her children membership card already in hand. The white attendant, a college-aged woman with a pinched expression, examined Maya's card with exaggerated scrutiny, flipping it over multiple times and comparing the photo to Maya's face with narrowed eyes. "This is a members-only facility," the attendant stated unnecessarily, despite the valid card in her hand. Maya noticed with a sharp pang that several white families had walked through the entrance during this exchange without having their cards examined at all. "I'm aware," Maya replied coolly, maintaining her composure for her children's sake. "The card you're holding confirms our membership." After what felt like an eternity, the attendant reluctantly handed back the card, and they finally entered the pool area. "It's happening again, isn't it?" Mom Zora whispered, her young face showing a wisdom beyond her years, born from countless similar experiences. Maya knelt down to her children's level, looking into their eyes with fierce love and determination. "Yes, but remember what I've always taught you. We hold our heads high and never let anyone diminish our dignity," she said quietly, squeezing their hands before leading them toward an empty spot by the water's edge, acutely aware of the stairs following their every move. The afternoon sun beat down on the Oakwood Heights community pool as Maya helped Marcus adjust his floaties, the cool water providing welcome relief from the Georgia summer heat. "Watch me, Mom," Marcus called out excitedly as he practiced his freestyle stroke in the shallow end, his earlier unease temporarily forgotten in the joy of swimming. Nearby, Zora sat cross-legged on a towel, absorbed in her favorite fantasy novel, occasionally glancing up to check on her brother with the protective instinct of an older sibling. Maya allowed herself a moment of peace, watching her children enjoy this simple pleasure, though her trained eyes couldn't help but notice the group of white mothers huddled together on the far side of the pool, whispering and casting not so subtle glances in their direction. She tried to ignore the familiar feeling of being an outsider, focusing instead on Marcus's delighted splashing until a sharp voice cut through the ambient pool noise. "Excuse me, but I don't believe we've met," said a slim blonde woman in an expensive designer swimsuit, approaching with the confident stride of someone accustomed to authority. The woman's smile didn't reach her eyes as she continued without waiting for a response. "I'm Patricia Sullivan, president of the Oakwood Heights Neighborhood Association, and I don't recall seeing you at any of our community meetings." Maya stood up, extending her hand professionally. "Dr. Maya Carter. My children and I moved in 6 months ago on Maple Ridge Drive." Patricia ignored the outstretched hand, her gaze flickering to Maya's membership card lying atop her beach bag. "Well, we've had some issues with non-residents using our facilities lately. Would you mind showing some additional proof of residence?" The request hung in the air, its discriminatory nature obvious as white families continued to enjoy the pool unchallenged. "I've already shown my valid membership card at the entrance," Maya replied evenly. Years of FBI training helping her maintain composure despite the growing knot of anger in her chest. "No one else here is being asked for additional identification." Patricia's expression hardened. "I'm simply trying to ensure our community standards are maintained. If you actually live here, you shouldn't have a problem proving it." By now, several poolside conversations had quieted as people turned to watch the confrontation. Maya noticed phones being raised recording the interaction and felt a surge of protective instinct toward her children. "I don't recognize you," Patricia continued loudly, her voice carrying across the now hushed pool area. "And, as association president, I know all our residents." The blatant lie stung. Oakwood Heights had over 300 households. But Maya recognized the tactic for what it was, an attempt to publicly establish that she didn't belong. Marcus had stopped swimming and was making his way back to Maya's side, his lower lip trembling as he sensed the tension. "Mommy, why is that lady being mean?" he asked in a quavering voice that broke Maya's heart. Before she could answer, Zora stood up, her book forgotten. "We have every right to be here," the 12-year-old stated with remarkable poise, though Maya could see her daughter's hands trembling. "You're only questioning us because we're black." A collective gasp rippled through the onlookers, the explicit naming of the racism hanging in the air like a thunderclap. Patricia's face flushed red. "How dare you? This has nothing to do with race. This is about security and following proper procedures." A white male lifeguard, who had been watching the situation unfold without intervention, finally approached, but rather than diffusing the situation fairly, he sidled up to Patricia with an apologetic smile directed at her, not Maya. "Perhaps you folks might be more comfortable at the public pool downtown," he suggested to Maya, his tone falsely helpful, while making it clear whose side he was on. Maya remained outwardly calm, though her pulse quickened with anger. "We are comfortable right here, where we have every right to be as residents and members of this community," she stated firmly, using the same authoritative voice that commanded respect in FBI briefing rooms. "We will not be leaving." Patricia pulled out her phone with dramatic flair. "Then you leave me no choice but to report this aggressive situation." As Patricia walked away to make her call, Maya knelt beside her distressed children. "We're staying right here," she told them quietly but with conviction. "Sometimes standing your ground is the most important lesson I can teach you." Just then, Maya's phone buzzed with a text from her FBI partner, David Chen Uargent. "We have a situation with the case. Your cover may be." The message cut off abruptly, sending a chill through Maya despite the sweltering heat, as she realized that this pool confrontation might be connected to something far more sinister than everyday racism. 2 police cruisers pulled into the Oakwood Heights parking lot with unnecessary speedlights flashing, but sirens silent, creating an immediate spectacle that drew everyone's attention. Maya's heart sank as she watched 2 white officers exit their vehicles and stride purposefully toward her family, bypassing Patricia Sullivan completely, despite her obvious gesturing and attempts to flag them down. The older officer, a heavy-set man with a crew cut and mirrored sunglasses that concealed his eyes, led the approach while his younger partner, thin and visibly uncomfortable, followed a step behind. "Ma'am, we received a call about a disturbance," the older officer stated flatly, positioning himself directly in front of Maya with an aggressive stance that violated normal conversational distance. His nameplate read, "Officer Brian Reynolds." "There's been no disturbance here," Maya responded calmly, aware that her children were watching every move and that numerous phones were recording the interaction. "My children and I are simply enjoying the pool, as is our right as residents and members. Officer Reynolds' mouth tightened. I need to see some identification now. The demand was issued without explanation, his tone condescending in a way that made Maya's professional instincts flare with warning. May I ask why you need identification, officer? I've broken no laws. Maya maintained eye contact, her voice steady and reasonable, despite the adrenaline beginning to course through her veins. Reynolds took an aggressive step forward. You're being uncooperative, which is suspicious behavior. ID now. The younger officer, whose nameplate read Officer James Wilson, shifted his weight nervously, his eyes darting between Maya and the growing crowd of onlookers. Maya nodded slowly, recognizing the escalation tactics being employed. My ID is in my purse, she said clearly, pointing to the beach bag a few feet away. I'm going to reach for it now. As Maya moved toward her bag, Officer Reynolds suddenly grabbed her arm with unnecessary force. What are you reaching for? He demanded, twisting her wrist painfully and pushing her against the nearby pool fence with a thud that knocked the wind from her lungs. Zora screamed, lunging forward with her phone raised. I'm recording this. You can't treat my mom that way. Patricia Sullivan appeared at Zora's side, snatching the phone from the girl's hand with a triumphant expression. This is private property. No unauthorized recordings. The pool area had become a tableau of frozen witnesses. Dozens of white families watching in silence as Maya was pinned against the fence, her children crying out in fear. Yet not one person stepped forward to intervene. Officer Wilson moved toward the children with hands raised in a placating gesture, but his actions aligned with his partner's aggressive approach rather than providing any real comfort. Stand back, kids. This is police business. The situation deteriorated with frightening speed as Reynolds patted Maya down roughly and discovered her service weapon in her purse. Gun, he shouted, drawing his own weapon and forcing Maya to the ground with a brutal shove that scraped her cheek against the concrete. I'm an FBI agent, Maya stated clearly, despite the knee now pressing into her back. My credentials are in the front pocket of my purse, along with my service weapon, which I am authorized to carry. Reynolds laughed dismissively, increasing the painful pressure on her back. Sure you are, lady, and I'm the President of the United States. Officer Wilson had retrieved the purse and was looking through it with growing concern. Brian, there's definitely a badge and ID in here. Reynolds cut him off sharply. Probably fake. Lots of people buy those online. Maya's face was pressed against the hot concrete, the indignity and danger of the situation acute, as she watched Marcus try to run toward her, only to be roughly pushed away by Reynolds, causing the 7-year-old to fall, backward onto the hard pool deck. Don't touch my son, Maya, shouted maternal instinct momentarily, overriding her strategic composure. Reynolds responded by yanking her arms behind her back and applying handcuffs with deliberate tightness that bit into her skin. Resisting arrest and threatening an officer, he muttered loud enough for the recording phones to hear. Throughout the entire confrontation, Maya maintained the presence of mind to memorize every violation of protocol, every face in the watching crowd, and every word spoken. Her training as a federal agent had prepared her for high-pressure situations, but nothing had prepared her for being racially profiled and assaulted in front of her traumatized children on what should have been a peaceful summer day. Do you think these officers were following proper protocol, or was this a clear case of racial profiling? Comment number 1. If you believe Maya's treatment was unjustified and discriminatory, and hit that like button if you've ever witnessed or experienced something similar. The painful reality is that scenes like this play out across America every day, but most victims don't have FBI training. What do you think happens next? Will Officer Reynolds face consequences for his actions, or will this be another case swept under the rug? Subscribe to find out how Maya uses her unique position to fight back against this injustice in the next part of this shocking true story. The rough concrete scraped against Maya's cheek as Officer Reynolds maintained excessive pressure on her back, the handcuffs digging into her wrists with deliberate cruelty, while her children's terrified cries pierced the humid air. Please, my children are scared. Just check my credentials properly, Maya pleaded, maintaining her composure, despite the humiliation of being face down on the pool deck in her swimsuit, with dozens of strangers watching. Reynolds shifted his weight, pressing his knee deeper into her spine. Shut up. You brought a gun to a community pool with children present. You're lucky I don't shoot you right now. The vicious whisper was meant only for her ears, sending a chill through Maya, despite the scorching summer heat. Officer Wilson, having searched through her purse more thoroughly, approached his partner with growing concern etched across his young face. "Reynolds, she's got a legitimate FBI badge and credentials in here. ID number, photo, everything looks real." Wilson's voice wavered with uncertainty as he held out Maya's federal identification. Reynolds barely glanced at the badge. "Anyone can buy that crap online these days. Call it in as a suspected federal impersonator and get back up here now." Maya could feel her FBI training kicking in, analyzing the situation even through her distress. Reynolds wasn't simply making a mistake. His refusal to verify her credentials properly suggested something far more sinister. While appearing compliant, Maya subtly activated the emergency signal on her watch, standard issue for high-ranking FBI agents working sensitive cases, sending her GPS coordinates and an alert signal directly to Bureau headquarters. More police cruisers arrived with flashing lights among them, a supervisor's vehicle that brought a small measure of hope as Sergeant Thomas Miller, a veteran officer in his 50s, emerged with a more measured demeanor than Reynolds had displayed. Maya caught Zora's eye from her position on the ground and mouthed clearly, "Call Angela." Her daughter nodded, understanding the instruction to contact Angela Robinson, Maya's closest friend, and a prominent civil rights attorney who had been named as the children's godmother. Around the pool deck, Maya noticed several white witnesses who had been recording the incident, suddenly lowering their phones, some appearing to delete videos after overhearing Wilson mention her FBI credentials. The realization that evidence was being destroyed in real time added another layer of urgency to her predicament. Unexpectedly, a teenage white girl with long brown hair approached Zora, pretending to comfort her while discreetly pressing something into her hand. From her angle, Maya could see it was a flash drive likely containing video of the incident. "I got everything," the teen whispered to Zora. "My dad's a lawyer, too." Before Maya could process this small act of allyship, Reynolds and another officer roughly hauled her to her feet, dragging her toward a waiting police car despite no formal charges being announced. "What about my children?" Maya demanded, straining to look back at Marcus and Zora, who stood huddled together in terror. It was then that Marcus began to wheeze, his small chest heaving with the effort to breathe. The stress had triggered his asthma attack. "My son needs his inhaler." "It's in my bag," Maya shouted. But Reynolds continued pulling her away, seemingly indifferent to the medical emergency unfolding. "Please, he has asthma." Sergeant Miller, who had been conferring with other officers, finally took notice of the situation. "Hold up, Reynolds. Let's verify her identity properly before transport and get medical attention for the boy." The sergeant's intervention marked the first official acknowledgement that proper procedures weren't being followed. Maya watched anxiously as Officer Wilson retrieved Marcus's inhaler and brought it to her son, whose lips had taken on a frightening bluish tint. A call to FBI headquarters was finally made, and Maya could hear the increasingly uncomfortable responses from the officers as her identity was confirmed by Assistant Director Harrington himself. "I don't care if she's the Queen of England. She had no business bringing a weapon to a community pool," Reynolds muttered as he reluctantly uncuffed Maya, the metallic click of the handcuffs releasing doing little to relieve the wearer. Throbbing pain in her abraded wrists. "You're free to go, but we'll be filing a report about the weapon," he added loudly enough for onlookers to hear, attempting to save face. Sergeant Miller approached Maya with an apologetic expression as she rushed to comfort her children. "Dr. Carter, I apologize for this unfortunate incident." Officer Reynolds was responding to a report of an aggressive disturbance, and the situation escalated when the weapon was discovered. The sergeant's careful wording, placing blame on the situation rather than his officer's actions, didn't escape Maya's notice. As she held her trembling children close, Maya overheard Reynolds speaking to another officer some distance away, his voice carrying in the now quiet pool area. "This isn't over. She had no right bringing a gun here, agent or not. Someone needs to teach her a lesson about how things work in this neighborhood." The ride home from Oakwood Heights was silent, the family car's air conditioning doing little to cool the burning sense of violation and injustice that hung heavily between Maya and her children. "Are you okay?" Mommy Marcus finally asked in a small voice from the back seat, his earlier asthma attack having left him pale and exhausted. "I'm fine, baby," Maya answered automatically, though the bruises forming on her wrists and the scrape on her cheek told a different story. Before she could say more, her phone rang, Angela Robinson's name flashing on the car's dashboard display. "Maya, I just got Zora's message." "What the hell happened? Are you all right? Angela's normally composed attorney's voice was sharp with concern. We're heading home now, Maya replied, careful with her words since her children were listening. Pool incident. Officers Reynolds and Wilson. Sergeant Miller eventually intervened. Badge issue. Full brief needed. The clipped phrases communicated enough for Angela to understand the severity without frightening the children further. I'm on my way with my team. Don't speak to anyone else until I get there. Angela's decisive response brought a small measure of comfort. Having a top civil rights attorney as your best friend was proving more valuable than ever. As Maya turned onto their street, the flashing lights of news vans came into view clustered near their driveway. How did they find out so quickly, she murmured, realizing that the pool incident had already gone viral on social media. Deciding to avoid the media frenzy, Maya drove past their house and parked a block away, leading her children through a neighbor's yard to access their home from the rear. Once inside, Zora immediately pulled out her phone. That girl Emma gave me her video, Mom. She got everything from when that woman first approached you until they uncuffed you. Maya nodded gratefully, taking the flash drive and securing it in her home safe before checking for any messages from the bureau. There were 17 missed calls, including one from FBI Director Thompson himself. Before returning any calls, Maya took a moment to examine her injuries in the bathroom mirror. Angry red welts circled her wrists where the handcuffs had cut into her skin, and a 3-inch scrape marked her left cheekbone where Reynolds had ground her face into the concrete. Photographing each injury methodically, Maya's FBI training kicked in. Document everything, maintain the chain of evidence, build the case. A firm knock at the front door announced Angela's arrival with 2 junior associates in tow, all carrying legal pads and recording equipment. They had no grounds for detention. Excessive force was clearly used, and the racial component is undeniable. Angela stated after hearing the full account, her professional demeanor barely containing her fury. We're filing complaints against both officers, the sergeant for failure to properly supervise, and the Oakwood Heights Association for their role in the discriminatory treatment. Sergeant Miller himself arrived shortly thereafter, requesting a private conversation with Maya. Off the record, Dr. Carter, Officer Reynolds, has a history of complaints that have been handled internally. The sergeant admitted his discomfort, evident in his shifting stance. Today's incident has attracted too much attention to be managed that way. I want you to know that not all of us condone his methods. Maya regarded the sergeant coolly. Yet his methods have been allowed to continue until they targeted someone with the power to fight back. How many others has he brutalized with department protection? The sergeant had no answer for that. Director Thompson's call finally came through as evening approached. Carter, this is unacceptable. I've already spoken with the police commissioner. What do you need from us? The director's support was unequivocal, a small bright spot in the day's darkness. Time to heal with my children, sir, and then you're backing when I pursue this formally. Maya answered honestly. You have both, plus a security detail if you want it. Your case assignments can be redistributed temporarily. Maya was about to decline the security detail when a crash from upstairs sent her racing up the steps, service weapon drawn from her ankle holster. What she found turned her blood to ice. The master bedroom had been ransacked, drawers emptied onto the floor, mattress slashed open, and her home office in similar disarray. Angela, she called downstairs. Get the kids in the car now. The house has been breached. A systematic search revealed that the break-in had occurred while they were at the pool. The security system had been professionally disabled and then reset, leaving no immediate evidence of entry. Maya's secure case files appeared untouched, protected by her bureau-issued biometric safe, but her personal laptop was missing. As local police and FBI evidence technicians processed the scene, Maya reviewed her home security footage remotely, discovering that the break-in had occurred exactly 73 minutes after they'd arrived at the community pool. This wasn't random, she murmured to Angela, as they watched the children sleeping fitfully in the hotel room the bureau had arranged. The pool confrontation was a diversion meant to keep me occupied while they searched my house. Angela nodded grimly. Which means this is connected to one of your cases. The question is which one. Maya knew exactly which case. Her recent promotion to lead the investigation into a sophisticated drug trafficking operation with suspected ties to local government officials had made powerful enemies. Her suspicion was confirmed when the evidence team discovered a handwritten note hidden in Marcus's stuffed dinosaur back off the Riverside case. Or next time it won't just be your house we visit. Your children look so peaceful when they sleep. The threat against her children crystallized everything for Maya. The pool incident, wasn't just about racial profiling. It was a carefully orchestrated attempt to intimidate her off a major case. Her FBI informant called late that night from an untraceable number. They know where you live because someone inside the department leaked your address. You're not safe there anymore, and neither are your kids. Maya made two immediate decisions. Her children would stay with her sister in Virginia until the threat was neutralized, and she would not be intimidated off this case. Before ending the call, her informant dropped one final bombshell. Officer Brian Reynolds was previously assigned as personal security for Councilman James Sullivan during his re-election campaign last year. Maya's mind made the connection instantly. Patricia Sullivan, the woman who had confronted her at the pool, shared the same last name as the councilman who had appeared repeatedly in her investigation files. This wasn't a coincidence. It was a conspiracy. The morning sun filtered through the hotel room curtains as Maya reviewed the preliminary background report on Officer Brian Reynolds compiled overnight by her FBI team. 6 previous excessive force complaints, all involving minorities, all dismissed due to insufficient evidence, despite witness statements she noted highlighting patterns that were all too familiar in cases of systemic police misconduct. Maya's partner, Agent David Chen, arrived with coffee and additional files. Reynolds has been on the force for 15 years, mostly in patrol. But here's where it gets interesting. His bank records show monthly deposits of $2,000 cash going back 8 months, source untraceable. Maya's eyes narrowed. Right around the time our drug trafficking investigation began identifying local distribution networks. The pieces were aligning with disturbing clarity. Reynolds wasn't just a racist cop. He was a corrupt one, with financial ties to the very criminal organization Maya was investigating. While Maya built her case, Angela was mobilizing her own resources, filing formal complaints against Reynolds, Wilson, Sergeant Miller, and the Oakwood Heights Association. The video captured by Emma Sanders, the teenage girl who had helped Zora at the pool, proved invaluable, showing the entire incident from an unobstructed angle that clearly demonstrated the officer's misconduct and excessive force. The video's already at 2 million views online, Angela reported, scrolling through her phone. National news picked it up this morning. Number Justice for Dr. Carter is trending. The public exposure brought both support and vitriol. Maya's email and social media accounts flooded with messages ranging from heartfelt solidarity to vicious racial slurs and death threats, the divided response a microcosm of America's ongoing struggle with racism in law enforcement. A knock at the hotel room door revealed an unexpected visitor, Officer James Wilson, Reynolds' younger partner, looking nervous and out of place in civilian clothes. "I need to talk to you, Dr. Carter." Without a recorder or witnesses. After thorough security screening by Maya's FBI detail, Wilson was permitted to speak. Reynolds has a network within the department. They're called the Old Guard, officers who believe they're above the rules and target specific neighborhoods and demographics. Wilson's hands trembled slightly as he continued. "I've documented at least 12 incidents where Reynolds planted evidence or used excessive force against black suspects. I wanted to report it, but the last officer who tried was found with drugs in his locker and fired." This testimony opened a new avenue in Maya's investigation. Not just a corrupt officer, but potentially a corrupt network within the police department. Agent Chen was assigned to verify Wilson's claims and secure his official statement. Meanwhile, Maya received a troubling update from the Bureau's digital forensics team. Patricia Sullivan was not just the Oakwood Heights Association president. She was married to City Councilman James Sullivan, a key figure in the drug trafficking investigation, who controlled zoning for several properties, identified as distribution points. The pool confrontation wasn't random racism, Maya explained to Angela during their strategy session. It was targeted intimidation. They knew exactly who I was, and used my race as a weapon against me, counting on the system to automatically criminalize my presence. The revelation brought both clarity and deeper concern. Her opponents were more organized and embedded in local power structures than initially assumed. When the police department attempted to arrange a quick settlement meeting, offering a modest sum and Reynolds' temporary reassignment in exchange for dropping all complaints, Maya and Angela recognized the move for what it was, an attempt to make the incident disappear before the deeper corruption was exposed. Not interested was Angela's succinct response to the offer. Pressure mounted from unexpected directions when Maya's FBI superiors suggested she focus exclusively on the drug trafficking case and leave the racial profiling complaint to internal affairs. "With respect, sir, these cases are now inseparable," Maya argued during a tense conference call with Assistant Director Harrington. Reynolds's connection to Councilman Sullivan directly links the pool incident to our larger investigation. Her position was vindicated when the FBI's technical team discovered that during the break-in, sophisticated listening devices had been planted throughout her home. Her private residence had been bugged, a serious federal offense that brought the full weight of the Bureau's resources to her case. The emotional toll on Maya's family became increasingly apparent during her nightly video calls with her children. Marcus had developed nightmares about police officers coming to take his mother away, while Zora had channeled her anger into action, starting a youth-focused social media campaign about racial profiling that was gaining significant traction online. "I'm proud of you for speaking up," Maya told her daughter, "but please remember to keep your location private. We still don't know how far this network extends." The investigation took another disturbing turn when forensic analysis of Reynolds' body cam footage from the pool incident revealed it had been manually disabled 5 minutes before he arrived on scene, evidence that he had premeditated the confrontation and deliberately concealed his actions. More damning still, cell tower data showed Reynolds had received a call from a number associated with one of Councilman Sullivan's aides minutes before Patricia Sullivan confronted Maya at the pool. They coordinated the whole thing, Agent Chen concluded as they reviewed the timeline. Patricia creates the disturbance, calls her contact, who dispatches Reynolds, specifically knowing he'll escalate the situation. Maya found herself in an increasingly precarious position, torn between pursuing justice for her family and completing her critical investigation, all while protecting her children from very real threats. The evidence of a conspiracy was mounting, but so were the risks of taking on both a corrupt police faction and a sophisticated drug trafficking organization simultaneously. Have you ever witnessed how quickly a seemingly routine police encounter can escalate when racial bias enters the equation? Comment number 1. If you believe police departments need better oversight and accountability measures, can you imagine facing both racism and corruption while trying to protect your children? This is the reality for many Black Americans in law enforcement. Hit that like button if you think Dr. Maya Carter's story needs to be heard by more people. As we move forward in this incredible true story, ask yourself, how far will this conspiracy go to silence Maya? And what will it take for justice to prevail in a system designed to protect its own? Subscribe now to make sure you don't miss the next shocking revelation in this case that exposes the intersection of racial profiling and police corruption. The secure FBI conference room fell silent as Maya slid her phone across the table, displaying the text message that had arrived minutes earlier. "Beautiful children you have. Zora looks just like you in her school photo. Marcus seems to enjoy soccer practice at Westfield Elementary. Shame if something happened during Wednesday's game." The threat was explicit, targeting her children with specific details about their current location and activities, despite Maya's careful precautions to keep them safely hidden with her sister. "They're tracking my sister's family now," Maya stated, her voice steady despite the cold fear gripping her chest. Assistant Director Harrington immediately dispatched additional protection to the Virginia location, while Maya coordinated an emergency relocation plan. The escalation came as Officer Reynolds, though officially placed on administrative leave pending investigation, was photographed by FBI surveillance meeting with Anton Kozlov, a Russian national identified as a key distributor in the drug trafficking network Maya had been investigating. "He's not even trying to hide it anymore," Agent Chen remarked as they reviewed the surveillance photos. "It's like he's untouchable." The corruption Maya had uncovered was proving more extensive than initially suspected, with evidence suggesting that at least 6 high-ranking officers in the police department had connections to Councilman Sullivan's operation. More disturbing still, Maya discovered that someone had accessed and altered her case files in the FBI database, subtly changing details in witness statements and evidence logs in ways that would eventually compromise any prosecution. "This isn't just local police corruption," Maya concluded during an emergency briefing. "Someone inside the Bureau is compromised." The realization necessitated extreme operational security measures. Maya established a separate unofficial case file, accessible only to her and Agent Chen, documenting the unaltered evidence and creating redundant backups stored off-site. Meanwhile, Emma Sanders, the teenager who had provided crucial video evidence of the pool incident, faced severe backlash within the Oakwood Heights community. Her family received anonymous threats. Their car was vandalized with spray paint reading, race traitor, and a petition circulated demanding their homeowners association membership be revoked. Despite the intimidation, Emma's parents stood firmly behind their daughter's actions. She did the right thing, Emma's father, a corporate attorney, told Maya during a secure meeting. We're not backing down, and neither is Emma. Their courage provided a ray of hope amid the escalating dangers. Patricia Sullivan, seemingly undeterred by the growing investigation, organized a community meeting at the Oakwood Heights clubhouse, where she portrayed herself as the victim of an aggressive encounter, claiming Maya had threatened her, and that the subsequent police response was entirely justified. This woman brought a gun to our community pool, where our children swim, Patricia declared to the assembled residents, strategically omitting any mention of Maya's FBI credentials or her legal right to carry her service weapon. Now she's trying to destroy the reputation of our dedicated police officers who were simply protecting us. The community meeting revealed how easily narratives could be manipulated to reinforce existing biases, as many residents readily accepted Patricia's version of events, despite contradicting video evidence available online. In a devastating development, Officer Wilson was found beaten unconscious in the parking garage of his apartment building, hospitalized with multiple fractures and a severe concussion after agreeing to testify about Reynolds' history of misconduct. The message was clear: anyone who broke ranks would face violent consequences. Maya's home, still unoccupied since the break-in, was vandalized overnight with racial slurs spray-painted across the garage door and front porch. The security cameras deliberately smashed to prevent identification of the perpetrators. Director Thompson, now fully aware of the case's complexity and danger, assigned Maya a 24-hour protection detail, though she found herself scrutinizing even these agents, uncertain who could be trusted when evidence suggested internal compromise. "How do I know your team is clean?" she asked the lead protection agent frankly. "Because I personally vetted each one, and because I've lost 2 partners to dirty cops in my 23 years with the Bureau," he replied, his scarred face testament to past encounters with corruption. The school principal at Marcus's Elementary called Maya's secure line with disturbing news. A man claiming to be Marcus's uncle had attempted to pick him up from school, and when denied was observed photographing the building exits from a parked car. The FBI protection team identified the vehicle as registered to a private security company frequently employed by Councilman Sullivan. Fury finally overcame Maya's professional restraint when she encountered Patricia Sullivan at a grocery store, away from the eyes of the Oakwood Heights community. "You put my children in danger," Maya stated quietly, activating the recording function on her phone. "I don't know what you're talking about," Patricia replied with practiced innocence, but her composure cracked when Maya mentioned specific details about the drug trafficking operation. "James had nothing to do with those warehouses," Patricia hissed, before catching herself inadvertently confirming knowledge of case details that had never been made public, information she could only have if directly involved in the criminal enterprise. The recorded conversation provided crucial evidence linking Patricia directly to the conspiracy. The media landscape grew increasingly complicated as planted stories began appearing in local news outlets questioning Maya's professional conduct and suggesting she had a history of playing the race card to advance her career. Anonymous sources cited fabricated incidents from her FBI record, a sophisticated attempt to undermine her credibility before any official hearings could take place. "They're trying to control the narrative," Angela observed grimly. "Make you toxic before the truth comes out." The coordinated character assassination campaign suggested resources and influence extending beyond a single corrupt officer or even a police department faction. Working through secure channels, Maya's team uncovered photographs taken 3 months earlier showing Reynolds meeting directly with Councilman Sullivan and Anton Kozlov at a private hunting lodge outside the city, providing the first concrete evidence directly linking all 3 principal suspects. As Maya closed in on the conspiracy's core, her confidential informant went silent, missing their scheduled check-in and failing to respond to emergency contact protocols. "We have to assume he's been compromised or worse," Maya told Agent Chen soberly. "Purge any references to him from our systems immediately." Reviewing surveillance footage from her own protection detail, Maya noticed the same unmarked van passing their secure location 3 times in 2 days, a pattern suggesting that even her current safe house had been identified. "We've been under surveillance ourselves," she realized with growing alarm. For how long, the question raised a chilling possibility. What if the threats and attacks weren't just reactions to her investigation, but part of a broader strategy to manipulate her movements and responses? The insight led Maya to a bold decision. Rather than continuing to react defensively, she would set a trap feeding false information through channels she suspected were compromised, and watching to see who acted on it. The stakes escalated further when the Oakwood Heights Association, led by Patricia Sullivan, filed a countercomplaint, alleging that Maya had threatened residents and violated community guidelines by bringing a weapon onto the comms premises. Though legally baseless given Maya's federal credentials, the action was clearly designed to drain her resources and attention, forcing her to fight on multiple fronts simultaneously. They're using every system, police, media, civil complaints, to exhaust and discredit you, Angela observed during a late-night strategy session. It's a comprehensive campaign to neutralize you without leaving evidence of criminal conspiracy. Maya's response was equally comprehensive. While maintaining her official investigation through proper bureau channels, she assembled a parallel operation with trusted agents to document the full extent of the corruption preparing for the moment when she could spring her trap and expose the entire network at once. The pre-dawn briefing in the secure FBI command center hummed with tense energy as Maya outlined the final phase of Operation Sunlight to the 12 hand-picked agents who formed her trusted circle. The false intelligence has been planted through channels we believe are compromised, she explained, pointing to a network diagram displayed on the main screen. According to this intelligence, I've scheduled a meeting with a new informant at the abandoned Riverside warehouse tonight to receive documents implicating Councilman Sullivan. If our suspicions are correct, Reynolds and his associates will move to intercept what they believe will be damning evidence against their operation. Agent Chen added technical details about the surveillance equipment already in place at the warehouse: cameras with night vision capability, directional microphones, and motion sensors that would document anyone entering the location. The trap was elegant in its simplicity, exploiting the paranoia of the conspiracy they were targeting. While the warehouse operation proceeded, Maya personally led a smaller team to conduct surveillance on Officer Reynolds, following him to a secluded restaurant on the outskirts of town where he met with Councilman Sullivan and Anton Kozlov. In a private dining room, using specialized FBI listening equipment, Maya recorded their entire conversation, capturing explicit discussions of drug distribution routes, police protection arrangements, and most damning of all, direct references to the attack on Officer Wilson and the break-in at Maya's home. "We need to make sure she doesn't connect you to the warehouse operations," Reynolds could be heard saying to Sullivan. "If that evidence gets out, we're all finished." The councilman's response was chilling. "That problem is being handled tonight, permanently." The recording provided irrefutable evidence of criminal conspiracy, attempted obstruction of justice, and solicitation of murder. Angela worked through the night with her legal team, compiling comprehensive documentation of both the racial profiling incident and the broader corruption case. "We've identified 27 specific civil rights violations just from the pool incident," she reported, plus evidence of a pattern and practice of discriminatory enforcement going back at least 5 years. The class action potential is enormous. The coordinated FBI raids began precisely at dawn with simultaneous operations targeting 14 locations, including Reynolds' home, Councilman Sullivan's office, the private security company connected to the surveillance of Maya's children, and 5 drug distribution warehouses identified through the trafficking investigation. The operation yielded 23 arrests, including 6 police officers, 3 city officials, and Anton Kozlov himself, caught literally surrounded by evidence at the primary distribution center. The scale of the corruption shocked even veteran agents. Financial records, seized from Sullivan's home office, revealed payoffs to judges, prosecutors, and police officials, totaling millions of dollars over a 3-year period. Officer Wilson, still recovering from his injuries, provided formal testimony from his hospital bed documenting years of systemic abuse and cover-ups within the department. "Reynolds wasn't a bad apple," Wilson explained. "He was part of an organized effort to control specific neighborhoods through intimidation, targeting minorities, to create a climate of fear while protecting the real criminal activities happening under official protection." At Oakwood Heights Middle School, Zora faced intensified bullying as news of the raids spread through the community. "Your mom got my dad arrested," the Sullivan's daughter accused her in the hallway, backed by a group of hostile classmates. Rather than retreating, Zora stood her ground with remarkable composure. "My mom got your dad arrested because he broke the law and hurt people," she responded, clearly loud enough for nearby teachers to hear. "That's what happens when adults make bad choices." The courage displayed by his 12-year-old daughter inspired Maya during the most challenging phase of the operation. The Oakwood Heights Association board members, seeing the direction of the investigation, began turning on each other in hopes of securing leniency. 3 board members contacted Angela, independently offering testimony about Patricia Sullivan's orchestration of discriminatory practices, targeting the few minority families in the community. She explicitly told us to find reasons to issue violations against those people, to make them uncomfortable enough to move out, one board member admitted in a sworn statement. The pool confrontation with Dr. Carter was planned in advance when they discovered who she was and what she was investigating. Patricia Sullivan, realizing her exposure, attempted to flee with nearly $300,000 in cash, but was intercepted at the airport by FBI agents. During questioning, she revealed that the entire pool incident had been orchestrated after her husband discovered Maya's identity as the lead investigator on the trafficking case. James said we needed to send her a message, make her understand she wasn't welcome here. Patricia confessed, apparently still failing to grasp the criminality of her actions. Reynolds was supposed to scare her enough to back off or request a transfer. It wasn't supposed to go so far. While the main conspiracy unraveled, Officer Reynolds remained at large, having evaded the initial raids. Maya's concern for her children's safety intensified when surveillance at her sister's Virginia home was compromised, suggesting Reynolds had identified their location. Before she could arrange another relocation, Maya received a frantic call from her sister. "He's here," her sister whispered. "He has a gun. He's looking for the kids." The nightmare scenario that had haunted Maya for weeks was unfolding. Reynolds had taken her children hostage, using them as leverage in a desperate last stand. "No police, no FBI," came Reynolds' voice when he took over the call. "Just you alone, or I start sending the kids back to you in pieces." Despite explicit orders from Director Thompson to wait for the hostage response team, Maya knew that Reynolds' police training would give him the advantage in a prolonged standoff. Her children had minutes, not hours. Making the most difficult decision of her career, Maya disabled her tracking devices and slipped away from her protection detail, driving alone to the Virginia address with a single goal: getting her children out alive. Approaching the house with the calculated calm that had made her one of the Bureau's top agents, Maya could see Reynolds through a side window, holding a gun on her terrified sister, while Marcus and Zora huddled together on the living room sofa. The corrupt officer was unraveling his movements erratic as he ranted about conspiracies and betrayal. Maya recognized the signs of a man with nothing left to lose, the most dangerous adversary possible. Formulating a strategy that utilized both her FBI training and her intimate knowledge of her own family, Maya prepared for the most important confrontation of her life, knowing that the next few minutes would determine whether justice would be served or a corrupt officer would claim 3 more innocent lives in his desperate attempt to escape accountability. The front door of her sister's colonial-style Virginia home stood ajar, an unnatural invitation that Maya recognized as Reynolds' first tactical error. Rather than accepting the obvious entry point where he would surely have a weapon trained, she circled to the rear garden where Marcus had once shown her his secret passage, a loose section of latticework concealing a gap large enough for, say, a slim adult to squeeze through. Inside the darkened utility room, Maya could hear Reynolds' agitated voice from the living room. "Your mother thinks she's so smart, bringing down the whole operation. Let's see how smart she feels when she has to choose which one of you dies first." The psychological tactic infuriated Maya, but she channeled the emotion into focused clarity, assessing angles and positions through the slight gap in the utility room door. Her sister caught Maya's eye briefly through the doorway, but showed no reaction, understanding instinctively that revealing her presence would endanger everyone. Drawing on her extensive hostage negotiation training, Maya called out, still concealed, "Reynolds, this ends today. The FBI has the warehouse. Sullivan is in custody, and Kozlov is cooperating. There's nowhere left to run." The sudden voice from an unexpected direction startled Reynolds, causing him to swing his weapon away from the children momentarily, the distraction Maya had counted on. "The children aren't part of this," she continued slowly, easing the door wider. "This is between you and me. Let them go and we can talk about your options." Reynolds laughed, a harsh sound devoid of humor. "Options? Sullivan was supposed to protect us. $2 million a year. We made sure his products moved safely. And where is he now? probably cutting a deal while I take all the risk. The corrupt officer was unraveling, but his next words revealed the full extent of the conspiracy. You have no idea how deep this goes, Carter. Judges, prosecutors, even people in your precious FBI. Why do you think your house was so easy to find? Why do you think we knew exactly when to confront you at that pool? Each revelation was another piece of the puzzle Maya had been assembling. Tell me more, she encouraged slowly, edging into the room while keeping furniture between them, her aim to position herself where she could shield the children if necessary. Who gave you my address? Who authorized the break-in? Reynolds seemed almost eager to talk now, pride in the criminal network overriding his desperation. Sullivan has people everywhere. Your case files were being monitored from day one. We knew every move you made, every witness you spoke to. As he spoke, Maya noticed Zora slowly pulling Marcus closer to the edge of the sofa, positioning them for a potential escape toward the kitchen. Her daughter's understanding of the situation showed a maturity beyond her years. It was perfect until you showed up, Reynolds continued bitterly. A federal agent we couldn't bribe or intimidate. Sullivan said making an example of you would send a message to anyone else thinking of causing trouble. The standoff reached its most volatile point when Reynolds suddenly grabbed Marcus, pressing the gun to the 7-year-old's head. Enough talking. You're coming with me as insurance, and the boy, too. The girl and your sister stay as hostages until I'm safely away. Maya maintained her outward calm while calculating angles, distances, and timing. Lower your weapon, Reynolds. There are 20 federal agents surrounding this house. The lie was delivered with perfect conviction. Snipers have you in their sights right now. A flicker of doubt crossed Reynolds' face, enough hesitation for Maya to make her move. Marcus, remember our game, duck and cover. At his mother's command, Marcus instantly dropped to the floor as Maya launched herself forward, leveraging her FBI combat training in a precisely targeted strike that knocked Reynolds' gun. Arm upward. The weapon discharged into the ceiling as they crashed to the floor, Maya's momentum carrying them away from the children. Despite Reynolds' greater size and strength, Maya's specialized training gave her the advantage in close quarters. She executed a joint lock that forced him to release the weapon, which Zora immediately kicked away with remarkable presence of mind. Within seconds, Maya had Reynolds pinned face down, securing his wrists with zip ties from her pocket. Mom, behind you, Zora's warning came just in time as Maya spun to see Sergeant Miller emerging from the hallway with his service weapon drawn. For one terrible moment, uncertainty hung in the air. Was Miller part of the conspiracy, too? The question was answered when the sergeant calmly secured Reynolds' discarded weapon and spoke into his radio, subject in custody. Hostages secure. Send in the teams. Maya's relief was palpable as she gathered her children into her arms. How did you find us? She asked Miller, as FBI tactical teams flooded into the house. The sergeant smiled grimly. You really think Director Thompson would let his top agent go in alone? We've been right behind you the whole time, but you got here first and created the perfect opening for us. The aftermath of the Reynolds arrest unfolded rapidly across multiple fronts. The full corruption network was exposed through evidence seized during the coordinated raids, revealing connections that extended to 3 judges, the deputy police commissioner, and even an assistant district attorney. In an unprecedented move, the Justice Department placed the entire police department under federal oversight, appointing an independent commission to reform policies and practices. Sergeant Miller, who had initially appeared complicit but was revealed to have been gathering evidence against Reynolds for months, provided crucial testimony that helped prosecutors build cases against 27 officers involved in various aspects of the corruption. I couldn't move openly against them, Miller explained during a debriefing. They had too much power and wouldn't hesitate to plant evidence or worse. I had to play along until I found someone with the authority to bring them down. The Oakwood Heights Association was disbanded following civil rights litigation, with the court mandating the formation of a new governing body that included proportional representation from minority residents. Emma Sanders, the teenager whose video evidence had been instrumental in launching the investigation, received a special commendation from the FBI director for moral courage. When adults around her chose silence in the face of injustice, this young woman chose to stand for truth, regardless of personal cost. The citation read, Officer Wilson recovered from his injuries and became an outspoken advocate for police reform, testifying before state legislators about the culture that had enabled Reynolds and others to operate with impunity for years. The problem isn't just individual racist officers, Wilson explained during a public hearing. It's systems that protect them, supervisors who ignore complaints, and a culture that values loyalty over justice. Maya received multiple commendations for her work in dismantling both the drug trafficking operation and exposing the corruption network, including the FBI Medal of Valor. When offered a prestigious promotion to assistant director, however, she surprised many by declining. "I've seen firsthand how power structures can enable abuse," she explained to Director Thompson. "I believe I can make a greater difference leading the new Integrity and Law Enforcement Initiative, working directly with departments to identify and address systemic discrimination." Her children's recovery from the traumatic events proved to be Maya's greatest challenge and most meaningful victory. Marcus worked with a child psychologist specializing in trauma, gradually overcoming his fear of police officers and regaining his carefree spirit. Zora channeled her experiences into positive action, starting a youth advocacy group and declaring her intention to become a civil rights attorney like Auntie Angela. The family relocated to a diverse neighborhood where they quickly formed genuine connections with neighbors of all backgrounds. 6 months after the arrests, Maya received an invitation that symbolized real progress. The newly formed Oakwood Heights Community Council, now led by a diverse board, including Emma Sanders' father, requested her participation in Won the Bite, developing anti-discrimination training for all community employees. Patricia Sullivan and her husband faced justice on multiple charges, from drug trafficking conspiracy to civil rights violations. During her sentencing hearing, Patricia finally acknowledged the harm she had caused. "I convinced myself we were protecting our community's standards," she admitted to the court. "But the truth is, we were protecting our privilege at the expense of people who had every right to be there. I didn't see Dr. Carter as a mother or an FBI agent or even a human being. I saw her as an intrusion into a space I wrongly believed belonged only to people who looked like me." On a warm spring afternoon, 1 year after the pool incident, Maya watched from a bench as Marcus splashed happily in the Oakwood Heights community pool, now transformed into a genuinely welcoming space. Zora sat beside her, working on an essay about systemic change for a national competition. "Do you think things are really different now, Mom? Or just different on the surface?" her perceptive daughter asked. Maya considered the question carefully. "Real change takes time and constant vigilance," she answered honestly. "What happened to us exposed one network in one community, but the bigger systems that enabled them exist everywhere. That's why the work continues. Your advocacy, my new role at the Bureau, Officer Wilson's testimony, it all matters." As if to illustrate her point, Emma Sanders waved from across the pool, where she was now employed as a lifeguard, her presence representing the new generation, taking responsibility for creating the community they wanted to inherit. In her final testimony before the congressional hearing on law enforcement reform, Maya had summed up the lesson of her ordeal. "What happened to my family wasn't just about racial profiling or police corruption in isolation. It was about how these forces intersect and reinforce each other, and how systems designed to provide justice can be weaponized against the very people they should protect. The question isn't whether such abuses occur. We know they do. The question is whether we have the courage to confront them, not just when they happen to someone with a badge and the power to fight back, but when they happen to any American whose only protection is the promise that justice should be blind to everything except the truth." Have you ever witnessed how one person's courage can create a ripple effect of positive change in a community? Maya's story shows us that justice isn't just about punishing wrongdoing, it's about rebuilding systems that work fairly for everyone. If this story moved you, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more powerful narratives about overcoming injustice. How would you have handled this situation if you were in Maya's position? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Has racial profiling affected your community? Comment "Justice Matters" if you believe we need more accountability in our systems. Thank you for joining us for this incredible journey from injustice to transformation. Remember, change begins when brave individuals refuse to accept the status quo, even when facing overwhelming odds. Until next time, stay vigilant, stay compassionate, and never stop working toward a more just world for all of us. Maya's journey reveals how racial profiling becomes weaponized when combined with systemic corruption. Despite her FBI credentials, Maya faced discrimination that many Black Americans experience daily, but without her resources to fight back. This story demonstrates how quickly routine police encounters escalate for people of color, and how institutions designed to protect citizens can be manipulated to target them instead. The most powerful lesson is that accountability requires both individual courage and institutional change. Emma's decision to record the incident, Officer Wilson's testimony despite threats, and Maya's refusal to accept a settlement all exemplify personal courage against systemic injustice. However, without structural